For the rules of the game, what stood out to me most is that this game actually mirrors a lot of other in-out logic games involving conditionality, specifically games where you have a positive variable followed by a negative variable versus a negative variable followed by a positive variable. It's very important to understand the difference between these two types of rules because they mean very different things. When you have a positive followed by a negative, it means at least one out, maybe both are out. And on the flip side, when you have a negative variable followed by a positive variable, it means at least one is in and maybe both of the two are in as well. You could potentially have both. Now, the former category, positive arrow negative, kind of like X requires not Y, that's pretty easy to understand. We're all accustomed to dealing with conflicts, variables that cannot both be in together. But what is much more confusing is when you have that negative followed by a positive, like saying not A requires B. We have a hard time getting our heads around the idea that even though you have one positive variable and one negative variable side by side, that you could have both in. And the reason you could have both in is that they do not conflict. The order in which they're presented means everything. So for example, if we said, if you don't eat your peas, then you must eat your carrots. Contrapositive, if you don't eat your carrots, then you must eat your peas. That means that you must always eat at least one of the two because they're vegetables and they're good for you, but nothing would stop you from potentially having both of those for dinner because they're vegetables, they're good for you. On the flip side, a positive arrow negative might look something like, if you eat cookies, then you cannot eat donuts. Contrapositive, if you eat donuts, then you cannot eat cookies. Because it's a positive followed by a negative, if you have one, then you cannot have the other. I think having a proper understanding of the distinction between these types of rules means everything for this game and for many other games just like it. And if you're looking for a comprehensive list of games just like this, I'll share it with you right now. There's Test 33 Game 2, the Birds in the Forest game. There's Test 36 Game 1, the Fruit Stand game. There's Test 45 Game 3, the Photographs game. Then there's Test 58 Game 2, the Volunteers game. This game type has come up so much that I actually wrote my own logic game inspired by these. Not a direct copy or anything, but testing similar logic. I'll include the link for you below. Additionally, if you want something really tough, there's the CDs game featured in Legally Blonde, Test 31 Game 2, which is like these, but on steroids. Now, I also wanted to talk a bit about the order of approach within logic games. A lot of times, it can be useful for you to do local questions first, then global questions later, especially if you have not made a ton of upfront inferences. So in many cases, I might say, do the orientation question, then the if local questions, then the global question, then any modification questions like rule addition, rule substitution, rule subtraction, things of that nature. But for in-out games specifically, I actually think that if you make the proper comprehensive diagram, you can actually knock out global questions up front because you'll see all the inferences at a glance. Yeah, like you'll see that O requires P and W, P requires not T requires K, and so on. So if you make those inferences up front, great, the game will be a breeze. If not, you could do more hypotheticals up front with your if questions, then do the general inferential questions later. Either way, whatever works for you, try them out. I'll include a link to my diagram for this game below so you can get a sense of how you might want to go about it. Of course, your mileage may vary. You might do it differently, and that's fine. Just putting it out there for you as one option. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Please feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. You can find me on the LSAT blog, the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast, and I've also released a free LSAT course at bit.ly/free LSAT course. I'll include the link below as well. Anyway, in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.